It's time for the Full Press Hockey Podcast with Jim Biringer and Bruce Seaman.
Shoots! He scores!
And now, with a trip around the National Hockey League, here's Jim and Bruce.
Welcome, everyone, to a special collaboration today between Big Apple Hockey, Full Press Hockey with Jim Biringer, my co-host from Big Apple, Marc Williams.
How are you doing, everybody?
We are live on location in Las Vegas as the NHL Draft is all set to go at the Sphere tonight at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And before it gets started, Jim, there's been a lot of action going on, a lot of rumors swirling, and one particular free agent who looks like he may be leaving the Tampa Bay zip code.
Yes, Anthony, Marc, thank you for having me on the show today. Yes, Steven Stamkos will be hitting free agency. It has been confirmed. Pierre LeBrun TSN tweeted it out. Julien Brisebois, as much as he was talking about, trying to get a deal done, Steven Stamkos will hit the open market on July 1. The biggest free agent out there, along with Jake Getzel, is hitting the market. He is leaving Tampa Bay, and there are plenty of suitors for Mr. Stamkos, his services, because, let's face it, he's still got a lot of game left.
He absolutely does, and there's one team that I think you could particularly watch out for come Monday, if he does indeed reach the free agents market, which we expect, and that is the Detroit Red Wings. Steve Yzerman, as we know, is there in Detroit, and I think that might be enough to lure Yzerman to Detroit. If you remember back when he almost hit unrestricted free agency the first time, there was some interest there with the Red Wings. I certainly think that Stamkos to Red Wings could be a match if it gets that far.
Yeah, I agree. I think, look, Steve Yzerman drafted the player, knows the player, worked the extension the last time. Look, we saw it that big day in June, right? Stamkos, he signed. We had the big trades with the Devils and the Oilers, and then the Montreal Canadiens.
Paul for Larson.
Yes, and then
Bobby
Weber.
Kenzie, the deal is 1-for-1.
Right, and then we had Subban for Weber, 1-for-1 as well. So that was a big letter day. July
within the same hour, if I recall.
Yeah, it was bang, like three and within an hour.
Yeah.
So I think Detroit is definitely a player. Look, they were this close to making the Stanley Cup playoffs. Having a guy like Stamkos, 40-goal scorer, what he does on a power play. They also can potentially re-sign Patrick Kane, though when we talk about a certain New York team, I think he's probably going there because of some unfinished business that he feels, but we can get to that later. However, I think Stamkos, Detroit, what they have there with Larkin, Lucas Raymond's going to need a new deal, Seider, they have a nice young nucleus. Now, the real question for Detroit is, do they believe in their goaltending? Because if they do, fine, but could they get Gustafsson? Maybe they make a play for Gibson.
Gibson, Anaheim, yeah.
That could potentially be a factor in everything, but I do like the Stamkos play because, look, let's face it, where else is he going to go? I mean, Toronto, Buffalo. I mean, let's be honest, Yzerman knows the player.
Now, Toronto is a good segue, Jim, because Marc, the Toronto Maple Leafs are always involved in a player. And if you remember, again, Stamkos and the Leafs were probably the biggest connection before he decided to go back to Tampa Bay. What are your thoughts on where the Maple Leafs may lie in the Steven Stamkos saga with reaching free agency on Monday?
Well, they're definitely going to do their due diligence, but they're also like a lion in the weeds. They might want to pounce, but if they're going to do that, they're going to have to move a big contract.
Yes.
And who would that be?
Marc is referring to Mitch Marner, Toronto Maple Leafs, elite forward. His name has been out there ever since they got eliminated from the playoffs. And look, we've been down this road many times with the Leafs in the core four and running it back. The caveat to Mitch Marner is he has one of those pesky no movement clause. Apparently from his reps, he wants to stay in Toronto. However, the Maple Leafs, if they convey the message they want to move on and go in a different direction, they may be able to convince him to waive that no movement clause. The thing with Mitch Marner, gentlemen, is that, again, the Maple Leafs cannot keep running it back. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And, Jim, we were downstairs a bunch of times. We saw Brad Treliving, walking a hole in the floor from pacing on the telephone. So he's up to something. And if he wants to make Stamkos work, he's going to have to move Mitch Marner.
Yeah, I mean, look, Steven Stamkos back to Toronto. I mean, everybody's talked about it. We saw John Tavares when he left the Islanders go back home. He had other, teams looking at him. But imagine if Steven Stamkos went home. I mean, he could really then, even if he goes to Detroit too, he could really stick it to the Tampa Bay Lightning and maybe potentially knock them out of a playoff spot wherever he lands. But look, you have to move Marner. The no movement clause is huge, right? Yeah. He wants to stay. He wants to play it out, but that means, Toronto's going to have to play hardball and be like, look, you can do it the easy way or you can do it the hard way. the easy way is you play nice, give us a team, we'll try to make it work wherever you want to go. Maybe Vegas, since we're here in Vegas, they're always in on somebody. They could probably make it work, maybe get a goaltender because we know Toronto needs that. But the hard way is like, look, we're not signing you to an extension. You're going to play the year out, that's fine, but we're going to let the world know you didn't want to help us, how that's going to help your legacy. We know he's about legacy in Toronto. He likes his good name there. But, again, it's a business. It can't be all sunshine and rainbows and everybody gets along. This is a business. Tampa's made it a business before. We saw what they did. Florida's going to have to do the same thing. If you want to win, you got to break up this core four. They should have done it after they lost to Montreal. They didn't. They continue to bring it back. Austin Matthews, new contract. William Nylander, new contract. Guess what? Those guys aren't going anywhere. Tavares is probably not coming back next year. Guess who it leaves? Mitch Marner.
Now, there's another big-time free agent out there, and that is Jake Gensel.
Yes.
Now, Mark, there were some rumors that he was going to leave Carolina, but reports the last day or so from Elliot Friedman says that don't count the Hurricanes out. They're making a strong push to try to re-sign Jake Gensel. But, Mark, if Gensel hits the open market, there's a certain New York team that could be interested in his services.
Very much, and the New York Rangers will be looking at him, and intensely so. I mean, they've seen firsthand what he's been able to do against them for years, and not even just what he did this year in the Stanley Cup playoffs against them when he was a monster, but against the Pittsburgh Penguins for all those years. He was such a Ranger killer. But if the Rangers do that, they might gonna have to move Jacob Trouba, and they're not gonna buy him out, right?
No. We're hearing that a buyout for Trouba is unlikely at this point.
No, I mean, look, if you look at the years, I mean, yeah, you get the cap flexibility first couple of years, but then there's, you're up against the cap. Now, we know the cap's going to go up, but let's be honest, if they're going to trade him, they're going to have to put assets in there, and they're going to have to retain at least 50% of that contract because no one's taking on $8 million. And look, maybe if Arizona was still in the league, that might be a place you could do it because they need to get to the cap, floor at least. Yeah. But they don't exist anymore, and Ryan Smith in Utah does not want bad contracts.
No, he wants to put a winner on the ice.
Right. So look, Getsel to New York, hey, it's a great move. But I think Carolina makes sense. We've heard originally Vancouver was in there, but that's been debunked. Yes. So, I mean, if Carolina can get him on a reasonable deal, maybe that spells the end for a guy like Marty Natchez there because, look, Carolina has a lot of free agents that a lot of teams want. Brett Pesce, Brady Shea, Teuvo Teravainen, Martinook. Yep. The list goes on. Stefan Nason, who's played so well as as a forward. Look, so many guys for Carolina. They have a lot of work to do. Florida, the defending champions, now have a lot of work to do as well. Sam Reinhart's there. Brandon Montour, OEL. Tarasenko, who would love to go back to the Rangers because he didn't want to leave.
Kevin Stenlund's another free agent in Florida. Mm-hmm. Nick Cousins, Kyle Oposo.
Right, so
the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes could be a team in flux this offseason for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I said it yesterday when I put it out on my Twitter. It feels like the Florida Panthers are going Miami Marlins after they won in 97 and 2003. Yeah. I don't think to that extent, Mark, but there's going to be changes with the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, and Jim, we were told earlier that there could be a possibility that Montour and Reinhart don't return to Florida, which would be a massive blow.
Oh, I mean, 57 goal scorer gone. That's huge.
And a 70-point defenseman.
Yeah, I mean that's two core pieces to your team. And Carter Verhaeghe reportedly there's going to be an extension announced Monday.
Yeah.
So again, look, Florida's keeping certain players, but again, like we said, it's a business. And we mentioned the Rangers before. Patrick Kane and the New York Rangers continue to heat up. Reports I've been told 2 years, $2.25, $2 million, plus incentives, bonus incentives because he's eligible now for that. He feels that there's unfinished business with the New York Rangers because when he was traded there, he was not 100% healthy. Let's be honest. And if he's going to be the player that he was in Detroit, maybe you solved your top-line winger.
Yes. But let's actually focus just for a second right here on the sphere right behind us. Hours from now, the NHL Draft is about to happen, guys.
I don't know if you can see now because it's daytime, but it is even hard for us, but it is lit up right now for the NHL with the draft.
It does have the NHL Draft going on there.
Circle. Yep.
So we have the NHL Draft going on. Guys, each one of you, what teams are going to make a lot of noise tonight?
Well, the other New York team is a team to watch, and we all know Lou Lamoriello, how he runs his hockey club. Again, I always make the joke, you have better chance of getting information out of the Secret Service than you do Lou Lamoriello. He keeps everything close to the chest. for me, when you look at the New York Islanders, it's about who can you move out. They have to move out of contract. The two names that you hear, J.G. Pageau, Anders Lee. Similar with Jacob Trouba, I don't see Lou Lamoriello moving his captain. He's a very loyal guy. But J.G. Pageau, 2 years remaining, $5 million. They re-signed Kyle McLean. You have Casey Zikas on the roster. At this point, you do not need those three centers on the team because they play too much of a similar role. And if the Islanders want to be a player in free agency for a player, Jonathan Marchessault, Patrick Waugh, coached him for 4 years in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. If the Islanders wanted to be put in a position where they can't even attempt to make that signing, they have to move out of contract by this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know Lou Lamoriello's history, right? When he was with the New Jersey Devils, even with the Toronto Maple Leafs, that brief stint there, he doesn't like to use buyouts. I believe one time when he was with the Devils, he bought out a contract, and he had no choice. I believe it was Ryan Clough who was bought out by the Devils. Yes. So, look, Lou has to move Pageau. $5 million isn't bad. Even if you retain maybe 0.25% over the next couple of years, that's still not a bad cap hit, with the cap potentially going up to $94 million, maybe even higher over the next couple of years. But look, who would go after Pageau? You know, he's a depth center now at best. Look, there are teams out there that need centers. Centers are hard to come by. Could Colorado potentially get a third-line center? I know they're looking to try to move Ross Colton, but again, Pageau's wheels and his goal scoring are not what he was in Ottawa. No. And at the beginning of that contract, when they went to those back-to-back conference finals, he's not that player anymore. So it's going to be tough, and he's not going to get bought out.
And when you talk about moving Pageau, the possibility of it, if you guys remember, end of May, a whole month, a little more than a month out before the draft, Lou Lamoriello curiously made that move where he accumulated another second-round pick when he swapped picks with Chicago. You never see that type of trade made that far in advance. Speculation is he did that to add draft capital so he could attach a second-round pick to move a player like Pageau. And that seems to be the going rate. The Red Wings attached a second-round pick to move Jake Wallman. Just the other day, the Vancouver Canucks attached a second-round pick to Ilya Mikheyev to move him. I got to believe if the Islanders move Pageau, you're going to see that second-round pick he acquired from Chicago go the other way to help move him.
And with day 2 of the draft starting the second round, we saw what Lou Lamoriello did last year. Yes. So I would not be surprised if that's when, if the Pageau trade happens, it happens on day 2 of this draft. Marc, you mentioned the NHL Draft is tonight, right? We've heard teams like Columbus looking to move their picks. New Jersey's 10th overall pick is in play. Yes. Seattle's pick is in play. Philadelphia wants to jump in. I've heard the Rangers trying to jump into the top 10 now. Like, there is a lot of movement and shaking here.
There's potential to be a lot of movement. Elliot Friedman on NHL Radio the other day said he always predicts that things are going to be busy, and it never does. So he said he's hesitant to say it, but he said this year he truly does believe that there's going to be more movement, partially because there's more money out there in the market now. The cap went up. Teams are more willing now to make moves, and it has all the makings to be pretty active tonight. One team, Ottawa Senators, they're another team to watch. Defenseman Jacob Chychrun, whose name seemingly always seems to be out there.
Always seems to be in trade rumors.
He is on the block. I heard the Philadelphia Flyers were in discussions with him. I don't know if that fell apart, but Jacob Chychrun could be on the move tonight. The Ottawa Senators got their goalie in Linus Ullmark in the trade with the Boston Bruins. No extension in place. He's going to let it play out. But another player I think you keep an eye on this offseason is Josh Norris. There were rumors last year that the Senators were possibly looking to move Josh Norris. He has now suffered the same injury to his shoulder for the third time. He has, I think, 6 years remaining on his contract at a little below $8 million. I think if they could get out from under that, they would look to move Josh Norris.
I think that's a great move by them, though I do believe they think Norris is part of their core. But again, he's got to stay healthy. Yeah. How many years is this guy going to get hurt? Look, he's a good player when he's healthy, but you have Shane Pinto coming. He's going to need a new deal. If they can figure out a way to shed that money, that's great. Plus, don't forget, we've seen UC Saros now sign for an 8-year extension that's going to come Monday at 7.4. Look, if they sign Linus Ullmark at 5 years at $7 million, and Ullmark performs like he is the Vezina Trophy winner, that's going to be a heck of a deal for the Ottawa Senators if they can get that extension done. But that's a long ways away for that extension because he's not ready yet. He wants to get his family settled, all that stuff, but you never know.
And of course, you got a team that's moving up, like the San Jose Sharks, that they moved all the way up to 11 with 3 picks from the 14.
Yes, they made the trade with the Buffalo Sabres. They moved up 3 picks.
Buffalo's a team to watch tonight.
Yes, they are. Buffalo Sabres are a team to watch tonight. Jeff Skinner's name has been in the buyout. He hasn't been bought
Not
out
yet.
It was rumored it was out there. He hasn't been bought out yet, but his name has been out there. Another thing to keep an eye on, gentlemen, is Utah. Their owner wants to come in and make a splash and put a winner on the ice this season. If you're talking about teams looking to make a splash, watch out for Utah, because I think they have the assets, because the Coyotes had previously collected draft capital for many years. They have a lot of picks. They have a lot of prospects, a lot of young players, and I think he's willing to push those chips in to bring in even more excitement to the product this coming season.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think Ryan Smith, when the team came in, the new expansion franchise, he said he wants to put a winner on the ice, 100%, right? Coyotes have been so close, but guess what? They never made the playoffs, and the times they did, they never were able to build on it. Now Utah, fresh start. He knows what Vegas did. Vegas is not that far away. He knows what Vegas did their first year. No team is ever going to replicate that. Now watch, I say it, Utah will go to Stanley Cup Final. But I have my doubts about that just because of the players on that team and everything. But still, Utah wants to make an impact. We know Seattle's going to try to get goal scoring. They need it. Remember a couple of years ago when they made that deep run in the second round, they were the best team 5-on-5. They weren't last year. And they're going to want to make a move. But I think Buffalo, too. Look, Marty Necas is a name I continuously hear.
Marty Necas is a name to watch.
And with Buffalo having that draft capital, man, he would be a good pickup for them.
Pierre LeBrun reported, I believe it was yesterday, that there was a team that he thinks jumped to the front of the field for Marty Necas, and they were offering their first overall pick and made the assumption that could be the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres, gentlemen, aside from the New York Football Jets, they have the longest playoff drought in all professional sports. That franchise has been begging for a winner. Year after year, you hear about them taking the next step. They don't. They start off strong. You say, okay, the Sabres have arrived. They've got over the hump. But they fall back down and they miss the playoffs. Something has to change in Buffalo, so certainly look for them to make some changes this coming weekend. Some other random musings right now going on. Canucks general manager Patrick Alvin announced that Nikita Zadorov will not be re-signing. He will be going to market on July 1st. Are there any other things that you're hearing right now? Yeah,
I mean, look, Zadorov is attached to New Jersey. They tried to get him when he was first available in November. And then, look, we have Chris Tanev's name linked to Toronto. Yes. Brad Treliving, again, who's on the phone. Look, let's be honest, Calgary was not going to help out Toronto.
No,
anyway.
No way, no. They were not going to be doing that.
No. Yeah. So, look, I think Chris Tanev makes a lot of sense in Toronto. They need a good defenseman. Dallas is going to make a push to keep Tanev. Look, Jonathan Marchessault continues to be out there. Vegas, I think if Vegas can get Marchessault signed, we know Stevenson's gone. We know Manta's gone. We know Carrier's going to be gone. So they can't keep a lot of guys because guess who they got at the deadline? Hurdle, out of nowhere. So, I mean, Vegas has cap space, but they got to make things work here too. And now apparently their goalies are in play.
You should have seen our reaction on our trade deadline special when Anthony announced with 5 minutes remaining that Tomas Hurdle was going to Vegas. It was just unbelievable.
You mentioned Vegas goaltending. Yes, Logan Thompson, Aiden Hill, their names are out there. I think Vegas sees that they have two quality starting goaltenders. They see the market. They see what Jacob Markstrom returned. They see what why am I drawing a blank on the
Omar got Darcy Kemper was moved as well.
So I think the market's out there where they realize they have a position of strength right now. They can collect some assets. After this 2024 first round pick, they don't have a first in 2025 and a first in 2026. So they could really replenish some assets if they decide to move a goalie.
I mean, especially since Toronto needs goaltending to go with Joseph Woll. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a nice player. And again, we continuously hear Mitch Marner to go to Vegas and all this, and we've heard Marner go to Utah, but that was debunked. So, look, there's going to be some movement tonight. And I think, look, New Jersey has that 10th overall pick in play. Could they get Marty Necas again?
If Jersey got Marty Necas, that would be dangerous for the rest of the Metropolitan
Division. That would be very...
To go along with the young talent they have, and Jack Hughes, and Dawson Mercer, Alexander Holtz, Timo Meier.
And that's a name that continues to be out there that Holtz may be on the move again because... But again, Sheldon Keefe's the new head coach. Does he see he can get him to work? But again, they've tried him in the top 6. They feel like his development is not there. But again, you go back to when he was drafted... he's not a defensive forward. He's a scoring winger like Lucas Freeman is in Detroit, and he's never been given that opportunity. They expect him to play defense. He's not that type of player. Look, we've seen what Sharon Govich did in Calgary. Now Kevin Ball's there. You know, you never know. And speaking of Calgary, I know there's a lot of news and nuggets out there.
I was just gonna
Nazem Kadri's name is out there.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so there's another name that's out there. But with the Devils, you always keep hearing from Tom Fitzgerald that the 10th pick is in play. They've been building for so long. They want to get back to the playoffs. They want to build on what they did last year. This year was a bit of a setback. You can see them moving on.
Now, going back to Nazem Kadri, I don't blame Kadri for possibly wanting out of Calgary, Jim. You know, he signed there, committed long term. He sees now Markstrom gets traded. He sees Andrew Mangiapane just got traded to the Capitals last night. You know, the mass exodus of Calgary has been strong lately. Hannafin last year at the deadline, Tanev. So I don't blame Nazem Kadri if he went out of Calgary. Now, it is a big contract to take on. So there's a lot of moving parts to that if it happens, but he is a name to watch out for.
Yeah, I mean, the Calgary rebuild mode, Craig Conroy's got assets for everybody. Started last summer. Toffoli, it started. And then you go to Zadorov, Lindholm, Tanev, Markstrom. Now Mangiapane's back out. He went to Washington. Look for potentially TJ Oshie to potentially go to Roberta Island, LTIR for the year because, let's face it, his back is not what it used to be. So, and the fact that Washington took on the whole contract tells me that maybe Oshie is not playing this year.
Now, gentlemen, as we all know, the draft is being held at the Sphere later tonight. Before we wrap up, let's give some bold predictions of something that you think will happen tonight. Marc, I'll put you on the spot. You go first.
I will go with his name is slipping my mind right now. The Russian kid.
Demidov?
Demidov, yeah. Demidov. I think he's actually going to slide down. I don't think he gets past Montreal. I think he could go as far as 6, I think. And I think that would be the best value of the draft if he slides all the way that way. Sort of like Matvei Michkov last year.
Yes. Jim, what about your bold prediction?
You know, I think.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, no. Look, you know, obviously we know that Celebrini is going to go first overall. I would not be surprised if Iginla goes higher than Tage Iginla goes higher than he's projected, just because of the pedigree, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's going to be Calgary.
Well, then the next question I have is, does Calgary trade up to go get him if he goes potentially higher?
So I ran into Jerome yesterday, and we were talking about that, and he felt that, you know, his legacy, you know, he doesn't want to put his son in that kind of position, similar to what we saw with Brodeur, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, just a little nugget there. So I think, you know, another team that could want him, Montreal.
My bold prediction, we are here in Vegas. They are hosting the draft, their home city. The Vegas Golden Knights are always at the forefront of the big-name players available. You know, Mark Stone, Tomas Hertl, Jack Eichel, Alexei Pietrangelo. Whenever there's a top guy available, they're in the mix, and usually not they get him. My prediction, here at the Sphere tonight, we see that the Vegas Golden Knights trade for Toronto Maple Leafs forward Mitch Marner in a blockbuster.
Oh, I like it.
You heard it here first.
Guys, thanks for having me on today.
No problem.
All right,
Anytime.
Thanks for having us.
We'll do more of these going forward.
Yes.
And make sure you guys watch the draft tonight. Tune in. It should be an excellent, excellent night.
Take care.
Hit it.